is, the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. Stop by. It's not just for people from out of town, it's for Kansas Cityans. And if you've been there once, go there again. I've been there a few times, and every time I go there, there's either something I didn't notice the first time or something that's new. And when you're there, make sure you say hi to Bob Kendrick, who in a stunning development is dressed to the nines today, although that's every day for you. How you doing?
I am doing great. What a glorious day to be at the K.
It sure is, and we had the dress to the nines, talked about it on our pregame show, and what a celebration.
It's a tremendous celebration because, you know, I think we're doing the best baseball promotion in all of Major League Baseball. When you add the dimension of our salute to the Negro Leagues, dress to the nines, the Sunday jazz brunch, the baseball sermon that was delivered beautifully today by Reverend Bob Hill, Pastor Emeritus over at Community Christian Church. When you combine all those elements, I don't know if there's anything in baseball that tops this.
Now, we can't take full credit for it, Bob, but I want to say, as Danny Duffy strikes out another hitter, Danny has 5 strikeouts in 2 1/3 innings. But I remember a few years ago, you were up here, and we talked about, you know, we should be giving away hats that they wore back then, and we should be combining dress to the nines with Negro Leagues. And look at me, people are right in the spirit of things.
And here it is.
Yeah.
And here it is. And what a beautiful celebration, you know. And I think the simplicity of dress to the nines is the fact that it's just a simple call to action. You know, you come into the ballpark anyway, so put on your Sunday best and celebrate the way fans used to going to Monarch games. And people have answered the call. And of course, having an opportunity to work with the Royals has been an absolute joy. The team has been so supportive of the museum. This event continues to grow. I mean, you look out at this incredible crowd, and so many Monarch fedoras are being sported, both this year and the previous years, and the newsboy cap, the whole 9 yards. And so it is truly a special day.
And really nice that it's a grassroots effort. It all started with some fans who wanted to kind of get things going in this fashion.
Yeah, you know, and I think that's the thing. I told you guys in the pregame show, years from now, I'll swear that this idea was mine, but it really wasn't. It really wasn't. Brett Parker, Eliz Belden, Brad Belden, young people who came to me and said, we've got this idea to see if we can get fans to dress up the way they used to go to Monarch games. And I said, damn, how come I didn't think of that? And, you know, and here we are with dress to the nines.
And the dress to the nines is because, well, first of all, they wanted to look nice at the ballpark, but oftentimes it was right after church, right? Just go right from church right to the ballpark.
Absolutely. Negro Leagues baseball was so popular that black churches would move their service time up an hour. Now, if you know anything about the black church, you don't mess with service time. But when the Monarchs were home, Sunday service started at, the 11 o'clock service would start at 10 o'clock. And everybody filed out going straight to the ballpark dressed to the nines. And you have to remember that the Negro Leagues primarily played on Sundays because that's when they could get access to the stadiums. Major League Baseball, for the most part, in that era, didn't play Sunday games. So the Negro Leagues would rent the ballpark, play that Sunday doubleheader, and we left straight from church, going straight to the ballpark, as again, dressed to the nines.
Tell you, Monty, with the dress to the nines theme, the other 9 I think of is, I think I learned 9 new things about the history of baseball when Bob Kendrick's in the booth with us. I didn't know any of that.
Well, I got one I want Bob to share, and here we are with a couple outs, so we'll do it quickly. But you heard the 6 points today, and the number 6 is the one I want you to go over.
Don't look back. Something might be gaining on you, from the legendary Leroy Satchel Paige, who was so wise. You know, he didn't have a formal education. You know, very few did back in that era growing up in the Deep South. But he was so wise. And so he had his 6 rules to live by. And number 6, and probably most importantly, don't look back. Something might be gaining on you. But he also gave us gems like age is simply mind over matter. If you don't mind, it don't matter. Or how old would you be if you didn't know how old you were?
That sounds a lot like Buck.
I think I heard Buck say that a few times.
And I tell you, today, Danny's channeling his inner lefty Lamarck, who was a great left-hander for the great Kansas City Monarchs.
To the point you just made, we just saw Satchel Paige warming up. I think that was Wrigley Field.
Yeah, it probably was.
Right?
He pitched a lot. Oh, yeah. You know, the numbers on Satchel are just absolutely amazing. Pitched in over 2,500 games, man. I mean, that is unbelievable. And by his own estimation, recorded some 55+ no-hitters, only God knows how many strikeouts, and he did it with style. You know, and so when you become the standard in which everybody else compares to, because there were a lot of great pitchers in the Negro Leagues, and people will say, well, such and such was as good as Satchel Paige, or his fastball was as fast as Satchel Paige. Well, when you become the standard that everybody else is measured to, you must be pretty doggone good.
Well, and you know, this big discussion has come up this year when Bryce Harper said that, you know, baseball is tired, you should be able to celebrate. Well, in that era, in the major leagues, it was very country club, business-like, act like you've been there, but not in the Negro Leagues,
Not in
right?
Negro Leagues. This was exciting. As Buck would say, you couldn't go to the concession stand because you might miss something you'd never seen before. The major leaguers would accuse the guys of showboating. Buck said they would go in the hole, you know, dive, flip it behind the back, Monty, to start the double play, and the major leaguers would accuse them of showboating. But as Buck would so poetically say, it's only showboating when you can't do it. And today it is a SportsCenter Top 10 highlight. You see that every night, you know, on the national sports media with guys making these great plays. Well, that was commonplace in the Negro Leagues. And so they played the game with a little flair. And the fans absolutely loved it.
Bob, one thing that I think is interesting, you talked about the numbers with Satchel Paige. They say they believe to be, a lot of times they forgot the scorebooks, that they don't know all the stats. But if you look at Major League Baseball's leader all-time games pitched with Jesse Orosco, 1,200 in some games. So it's an amazing difference.
Jeff, Satchel was pitching 2 or 3 innings almost every single day because everybody wanted to see Satchel Paige pitch. He was that charismatic, and he filled up the ballpark. And so he would give them 2 or 3 innings almost every day. And so it's hard to even imagine under today's standards a guy pitching as effectively and as much as Satchel did, and we don't even know how old he really was. We know what baseball says. They say he was 42 when he joined the Cleveland Indians in 1948 as a rookie and helped Cleveland win the World Series that year, and he may have been 52 at that time. So
Danny Duffy getting to the end of his pitch count here. The crowd gets behind him for a 3-2 pitch, and that's a walk. They are ready in the bullpen if Ned Yost decides to make a move, but a tough left-hand batter is coming up in Freddie Freeman. Bob, Dave Holtzman, our stats producer, did some research, and it really got me thinking about the Negro Leagues, and I don't think Holtzy had this in mind, but you know, the Royals have players from 10 different countries on their roster right now.
All over the globe.
And I started thinking about, you know, we think about African-American players in the Negro Leagues and, you know, following Jackie Robinson to the big leagues. But, I mean, before Jackie Robinson, players from Venezuela, Dominican Republic, Cuba, Mexico, Puerto Rico, Brazil, Nicaragua, if they were dark-skinned, they
played in the Negro Leagues.
I mean, yeah.
Absolutely. And really, Ryan, the Negro Leagues helped make the game the global game that it is today. They took baseball to many of those Spanish-speaking countries. They took baseball to Japan. They were the first Americans to take professional baseball to the Japanese, going all the way back to 1927. They were oftentimes the first Americans to play in many Spanish-speaking countries. So they helped make the game the global game that it is. And what you alluded to is the simple fact that the Negro Leagues didn't care what color you were. All they cared was, Monty, can you play? You know, and if you can play, then you can play. And that was the only barometer. And to me, that is what makes this story so awe-inspiring, so compelling, because you come there and you learn about these great athletes who were so passionate about the game of baseball, that they would overcome the social adversity that confronted them to play the game of baseball, and they helped make this game the great game that it is today. And in the process, they changed our country for the better. And so what's not to love about this story? And so when people, as you can well imagine, we had tons of Braves fans at the museum over the last 3 days, and they walked away absolutely amazed by what they experienced. And, you know, so it was really a special weekend, particularly having the Atlanta Braves in town. I'm a native Georgian, and so I'm a lifelong Braves fan, so this is difficult. But as I told the guys this morning, I'm a Royal fan now, and plus you got to root for the people who signed the check.
That's right.
I found it interesting that Malik Smith made an impromptu appearance.
He did. He came down yesterday unannounced, and he spent a couple of hours, and after he toured, followed me around a little bit, introduced himself to me, and then came out of here and went 3 for 4 with a double and a triple. I said, hey, it ain't supposed to work that way.
So who did the Royals have to pitch around today? Huh? You're the best, man. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you
Appreciate
for everything you do, man.
No, same
you have
here.
picked up where Buck left off, and you just glorified this museum. Thank you.
Ryan, I appreciate it. Monty, always a pleasure, man.